A nuclear-powered submarine just fired its first torpedo at the Spanish Armada, and the 20,000 soldiers on those 130 ships have no idea what a submarine is. No muzzle flash, no enemy sail on the horizon, just a concussive detonation from 60 feet beneath the hull of the San Salvador, and 233 men are already dead. The Armada's flagship signals in every direction. Nothing answers back. The second torpedo is already in the water. The submarine's immediate problem isn't the Armada, it's the channel itself. No GPS, no satellite uplink, no depth charts accurate to 1588. This coastline has never been dredged. Running at combat depth in the approaches of Dunkirk risks hard grounding on uncharted sandbars. The sub is confined to a 15-mile operational corridor of safe water, while 130 ships fan across 40 miles of channel. Up top, the Spanish response is instinctive and fast. The crescent tightens, every ship clusters toward the center formation, exactly the wrong move, concentrating targets, while screaming lookouts report a sea monster that kills without surfacing. The Duke of Medina Sidonia's only order: keep moving. He cannot fight what he cannot see, so he tries to outrun it. He cannot outrun a 25-knot submarine. The Spanish cannot shoot at the submarine. Their bronze cannon max out at 400 yards on a good day, against a surface target they can see. The Mk-48 torpedo acquires targets at 8 miles and runs at 55 knots. The Armada has 2,431 guns that are permanently useless. The submarine has 37 weapons that cannot miss. But 37 against 130 is a countdown, not a victory. The sub's commanding officer knows the math immediately. At 1 torpedo per ship, which is overkill, he runs dry with 93 ships still afloat. If he wants to stop the invasion, he needs to pick targets that collapse the campaign, not just the fleet. Supply ships first, command vessels second, troop transports third, the warships, largely irrelevant without logistics, last. Day 1. 3 Mk-48s, 3 supply hulks gone. The Armada loses 40% of its freshwater reserves and the entirety of its reserve gunpowder shipment. 26 torpedoes left. The Spanish reaction, because it's the only rational reaction available, is to disperse. Ships break formation and scatter across the channel on the assumption that the demon cannot be everywhere at once. They are right, but dispersal destroys the Armada's tactical cohesion, which is the entire point. Day 2. The sub hunts the scattered formation using passive sonar. 130 wooden hulls generate acoustic signatures a Virginia class can discriminate at 30 miles. 5 more ships destroyed, including the Capitana of the Urca Squadron, carrying the Armada's entire siege artillery for the English coastal fortifications. The land invasion just lost its ability to reduce fortified positions. Armada doesn't know that yet. The sub's crew does. The psychological collapse is accelerating faster than the military one. Spanish sailors are refusing to sleep below decks. 3 vessels have run for the French coast without orders. Medina Sidonia sends a dispatch to Parma in Flanders. An invisible enemy destroys us from below the water. We cannot fight it. Advise on whether to proceed. Parma's army is still waiting on the coast, flatboats loaded, ready to cross, and the submarine hasn't touched a single one of them yet. Day 4. 11 torpedoes. The crew is running on 6 hours of sleep across 96 hours. And here is the trap that the Armada has accidentally built. Parma's flatboats and troop transports are concentrating in the Flemish coastal shallows, waters averaging 35 feet at low tide. The submarine cannot operate there without risking a permanent grounding. The invasion force is in a zone the sub literally cannot enter. A Spanish pilot, Rodrigo Tello, who has sailed the Flemish Banks for 20 years, has noticed something. The underwater demon never strikes near the shallows, never pursues ships that hug the Flemish coast. He brings this to Medina Sidonia personally. Within hours, Spanish command implements emergency routing. All surviving ships redirect through the banks. It's suicidal navigation for deep-draft galleons. Several run aground, but they're alive. The commanding officer now faces the terminal calculation: 11 torpedoes, a crew burning through provisions at 135 people per day, and the strategic target, Parma's army, sitting in 3 feet of water beyond reach. He can continue attriting the deep-water galleons, which no longer matter, or he can surface. Either decision ends the submarine's operational capacity within days. If the sub expends its last torpedo and surfaces off the English coast, the material outcome is already decided. 42 ships destroyed, Armada supply chain collapsed, morale broken across the surviving fleet. The historical storms that wrecked the returning Armada off Ireland in September, those still happen. Without supplies to weather them, more ships sink, not fewer. Philip II's Atlantic strategy is finished for a decade. English naval dominance arrives 30 years ahead of schedule. The East India Company forms earlier, stronger, with less competition. The map of the 17th century rewrites itself. If the sub grounds on the Flemish Banks, hull intact, reactor cold, crew captured, Spanish engineers spend 40 years failing to understand a nuclear pressurized water reactor and failing to replicate high-tensile steel hull construction. But they understand the concept: a ship that travels submerged. By 1630, Spain is funding primitive diving bell weapons programs. The underwater arms race begins 280 years early.